Alright, good evening, Arkansas. This is Assistant Chief Forecaster Cameron back here once again. We're going to give you guys a weather video blog going over Invest 98L, the potential of it going into the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to talk to you guys about Saturday's severe threat as well. And I'm going to talk to you guys briefly about the cool down coming up as we get towards next week here. So if you guys can do me a big favor, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube and share this video blog with anybody that you know that may be trying to go on the Gulf Coast, maybe next weekend or something like that. That way they can stay updated and stay tuned on the latest information here. Okay, so first and foremost, you're looking at satellite imagery here, and you're just wondering, where is the tropical system? Where is this this big monster of a hurricane that everybody's trying to throw at you right now here? Well, first and foremost, this system is extremely disorganized right now. Okay, it's kind of feeling that shear coming down from what is now a major hurricane of Fiona moving up into the northern Atlantic here. So the shear from Fiona is kind of pushing these storms down to the south and west here, kind of away from the center of low pressure. So that's kind of keeping the system from really getting organized right now here. However, over the next 48 to 5 days from now, it is expected to become a tropical depression, and it is expected to become at least Tropical Storm Hermine, which is the next name on the list here. So let's go and talk about stats real quickly here. So as I mentioned before, 48 hours, next 48 hours, 80% chance of development. Over the next 5 days, 90% chance of development here. So pretty much guaranteed that we're going to get a tropical system out of this this mess right now here. Okay, right now it's moving west at about 14 miles per hour. That's kind of a notable thing from yesterday if you've been paying attention. The system was moving at about 24, 25 miles per hour over the last couple of days. It has kind of slowed down over the last day or so here, and it's now down to about 14 miles per hour. The winds right now about 34 miles per hour, which is just under tropical depression status, which is 35 miles per hour or higher. Still sitting at about what we call an invest or an investigation at this point. We don't have a defined area of low pressure right now here. It's just kind of meandering at this point. It's kind of exposed out. So we'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 24 to 48 hours as we get a better defined system. And once that happens, model guidance will have a much better idea on what to do with this system here. Okay, and it's getting right around 1,006 millibars right now here. Before, it's just been kind of meandering over the last couple of days here. It's been moving really fast to the west, and it's finally beginning to slow down. And once it really slows down, it will begin to organize itself, and that's when you'll start seeing the system really start to grow in the Caribbean here. Now, you can see the forecast tracks right now here kind of all over the place, from the Bahamas and Cuba all the way over to the Yucatan Peninsula here. So this is why I'm saying right now here, don't go off of one set of computer model guidance here, because you saw the GFS. GFS has been east and then west, and then east and then west, you know, kind of a windshield wiper. The Euro, a little bit more consistent with the eastern track. However, I said before, we do not have a closed area of low pressure right now here. So until that happens, that's when you're going to get the models to really start to hone on what to expect with this system here. Okay, so we're going to go back to this real quickly here, and as I said before, we're going to take a look at the computer model guidance here. Okay, so this is the European model, and this is what the European model is wanting to do with the system here. Okay, so we're going to take this down, we'll kind of speed this up a little bit. Let's go to about 6 hours out here. Okay, so let's take this out just a little bit, and you're going to see with the European model here, not much going on in the Gulf of Mexico at this point. You're going to have a frontal boundary that's going to kind of sink down into Arkansas as we get towards late Saturday and Sunday. That's going to be a response of the severe threat, which I'm going to go over here in just a little bit. But you can see the system here. Here's the European model. Now, the European model is really far to the east. I mean, it is dead set on this thing going to Cuba and then eventually make its way into Florida here. Now, the one thing I'm concerned about is if it goes over Cuba, that it's going to run right into some land interaction, correct, which is going to weaken the system. However, once it gets out of the Caribbean, over Cuba and into the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to run straight into the Gulf Stream. Okay, it's going to cross over that loop. And what happens at that point is that system is going to strengthen even further once it crosses over. So you can watch with the Euro and look what the European model does here. I did not mean to do that. Let's do this. Okay, so you can see it kind of moves over Cuba, weakens, and then as soon as it gets back over in open waters, it strengthens once again, and then it goes right over southern Florida, and then it's out to sea from there. So the European model, if we go European model right now, we won't have any impacts here in Arkansas or along the Gulf Coast. It'll be mostly a Florida system at this point here. However, as I said before, we do not have a closed area of circulation at this point. Okay, once that happens, model guidance will have that information. But until that happens, don't focus on just one computer model guidance at this point. Okay, now let's take a look at the GFS here. Okay, the GFS more the same. Let's take this out just a little bit here. As I said before, we're going to talk about Saturday's severe threat here just a little bit. As you can see, some rainfall here in Arkansas, but there's our system down here in the Caribbean coming out. And what will happen is with this system, it will cross between the Yucatan Peninsula and Cuba, which would mean a pretty significant system coming into the Gulf of Mexico here. Now, I don't believe that the GFS is done with the 18Z just yet. So we're going to go back over to the 12Z real quick. But you can see what it does here. So model differences. You can see what it does with the 18Z versus the 12Z. And I can even go back to the 06Z and show you how the GFS has been kind of flip-flopping over the last couple of days here, okay? But you can see what it does. There's the GFS here about 12Z, and it's first and foremost much further west than the European model. The European model, remember, took this into southern Florida and then out to sea. The GFS, however, is in the central Gulf. Okay, so you can see that's about a 200 to 400 mile difference between the GFS and the Euro. Now, you can see what the GFS does. It takes it just due north into the Florida Panhandle versus southern Florida. Okay, now you're probably looking at this as a Arkansas resident, and you're like, why are you talking about a system that's not going to impact us here in Arkansas? Well, first and foremost, we have a lot of fans that are in Florida, that are along the southeast coastline, on the Gulf Coast, that are trying to figure out what to do with this situation here. And there's a lot of information being thrown out right now, and a lot of it's misleading. You know, a lot of it's like they see a hurricane and they immediately think it's going to happen. So just kind of keep that in mind here. Just trying to give you guys the most accurate information I can at this point here. But right now, with us not having a center of low pressure, this means that anywhere from East Texas all the way over to Florida has a chance of seeing this system come as we get towards late next week and into the early part of the weekend here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to back this up all the way to the 06Z, which was this morning's run, and you're going to see a drastic difference between the 06Z, the 12Z, and the 18Z. You go to 06Z, this will be a problem for us here in Arkansas, because you can see what it does. It takes the system into western Louisiana. It tries to turn it northeast here, kind of similar to what happened with Ida, where it kind of recurved to the north and east here. But you can see it brings rainfall to us here in Arkansas as we get towards late next weekend. This is the Arkansas-Alabama game, by the way, and into the following week, the first week of October. Okay, so we'll just have to watch the situation closely. But right now, I want to stress one last time, we do not have a center of low pressure. Until that happens, model guidance it's going to be all over the place at this point here. Okay, let's take a look at the Canadian model. Last model we'll show you guys, and then we'll talk to you guys about the severe threat as we get towards Saturday here. Okay, now you can see with the Canadian model here, I'm going to take this out just a little bit, kind of similar to what it does with the Euro. Goes right over Cuba, okay, and then it goes into southern Florida, and then it's out to sea. Okay, so regardless of what happens with the system, if you live, I would say, western Louisiana all the way over to southern Florida, or you know someone that lives there, or you yourself are trying to go to the Gulf Coast this next weekend or something like that as like a vacation or whatever, keep an eye on this system, monitor us for updates. We'll keep you guys tuned on the latest here. Okay, now let's talk about the severe threat on Saturday here. Now, we have a marginal risk for severe weather as we get towards today on Saturday. I know this is opening for Boeing season, for deer season, etc. A lot of people are going to be out and about first thing on Saturday morning. Right now, the majority of this should be after 4 p.m. as we get towards today on Saturday. This is what our second cold front that's going to swing through as we get towards Saturday evening and into Saturday night here. Okay, main threats with this is going to be potential of isolated damaging wind gusts and some isolated large hail. No tornado threat with this at all. I want to stress that to you guys. No tornado threat with this at all. Okay, now let's take a look at some computer model guidance here. Now you can see it's a Saturday afternoon. Okay, I know we got the Arkansas-Texas A&M game right around 6 o'clock Saturday evening as well here. So if you're planning to do any kind of outdoor activities you should be relatively good to go. I'm not expecting a widespread washout with this event. However, just some pop-up thunderstorms. Some of them could go severe. Your typical garden variety thunderstorms across the board here. And you can see by the time we get towards your Saturday evening and Saturday night, most of these thunderstorms are pushing into eastern Arkansas, over into Tennessee, and into northern Alabama here. Okay, so as I mentioned before, kind of recap of this video. Keep an eye on Invest 98L if you live along the western Louisiana coastline all the way to Florida. You need to monitor the situation closely over the next 5 to 10 days. And also the severe threat on Saturday, isolated damaging wind gusts, isolated hail, no tornado threat with this setup at all. Okay, so we'll continue to keep you guys updated right here in your source for all things Arkansas weather.